I adopted my son when he was 2.5 months old. He was born 8 weeks premature and spent a few months in a neonatal intensive care unit, which most preemie parents begin to refer as NICU, or their home away from home. NICU was a roller coaster ride full of highs and lows, and everything could change at a snap of a finger. But finally the day arrived when he was free from the machines that had been monitoring his every heartbeat and breath, and they sent us on our way to begin our life together. It was a bit overwhelming as the nurses loaded me down with supplies, gave me a quick CPR class, and wished me luck. I had no idea of the challenges we faced, or that raising a preemie would be so different from raising a healthy full-term baby. A premature birth is defined as birth before 37 weeks gestation. Babies born as early as 25 weeks gestation are able to survive today due to the advances in medical technology. But these babies are very vulnerable, and they face some serious health complications, such as respiratory distress syndrome, bleeding in the brain, heart problems, intestinal problems that are often fatal, and hearing and vision loss. At the very least, these premature babies end up falling behind developmentally and often require therapy to try to catch up. Now that you know a little bit about the health issues of premature babies, let me explain about the complications and the challenges that face parents of preemie. One of the first things I learned as a parent of a preemie is that nothing is ever simple, even the age of your baby. I began to hear terms like adjusted age or corrected age, and I quickly figured out that I needed to subtract the amount of weeks that Brody was premature from his age in order to get his adjusted age. His adjusted age is what you look at when comparing his height and weight on a growth chart, or where he's at developmentally. Other times I had to use his real age for things like vaccines. When Brody came home at 3 months, he took only a ½ ounce of formula at a time. That's just a few teaspoons. I was told to increase the calories per ounce of his formula by adding dry formula to his ready-to-drink formula. Many preemies have feeding issues due to being on a feeding tube for a prolonged period of time. Sometimes they have a hard time gaining weight, and it takes them a while to catch up on the growth chart. At 2.5 years old, Brody still isn't on the chart, which is why we take his eating very seriously. During the cold and flu season, many parents who have preemie children put their homes on lockdown. No one is allowed in my home who has even the slightest nipple, and Brody has specific places that he can go. Walmart, the grocery store, the mall are all out of the question. He has a hard time getting over simple illnesses like a sore throat or a stomach virus, and he almost always loses weight when he's sick. Plus, a common virus called RSV can be deadly to preemies within the first 2 years of life. Some people may say that preemie parents are overprotective, but if our children are gaining weight and they're healthy and they're growing, then we don't want anything to interfere with that. When Brody was a year old, I was introduced to early intervention in the state of Arkansas. He was evaluated for services like physical therapy and speech therapy. But after the evaluation, I learned that there are many more kinds of therapies, like occupational therapy or developmental therapy. Most preemies end up needing them all. Suddenly, our week was full of appointments for therapy, and that was in addition to the appointments that we already had at the Children's Hospital on a monthly basis. So I found myself in the van with Brody all the time, going from appointment to appointment. So given all of these challenges, how does a preemie parent survive? First, you have to realize that they are tiny, but they are not fragile. Try not to worry over every cough and bump. And just because they spent so much time in the hospital at birth doesn't mean that everything from here on out is a medical emergency that's going to send them back. Second, you have to figure out how to relax. When you realize that the stress is getting to you, send yourself to time out. Give yourself a few minutes, clear your mind. It's also important to have a strong support system and someone who can come in and help when you need them. Next, you have to be realistic about what it is that you can manage. Don't overextend yourself. There are days when I had to break down my day into small chunks just to stay focused. If I looked at the whole day ahead, I could feel the stress. But if I just focused on what we needed to get done that morning, or that afternoon, or that evening, it was easier to manage. One of the most important things that a preemie parent can do is learn how to be an advocate for their baby. There are times when it's necessary to fight for things that your child needs, such as services or equipment, a medical test or treatment, or financial aid. Sometimes you have to rely on your own judgment and decline treatments or services, but you figure out that you are the expert on your own child and that no one knows what they need better than you do, even their doctors at times. It's okay to say no when you feel it's in their best interest. And last, you have to recognize when it's time to take off the therapist hat and just be mom. So much of therapy is working with your child at home, just playing. But there are so many times that I found myself doing more therapy work than I was actually playing and enjoying my child. So it's important to just play and have fun and let your kid just be a kid. Raising a premature baby can be a terrifying time full of worry, but it can also be the most rewarding experience ever. Every milestone is precious. No event is ever ordinary, and nothing is ever taken for granted. Eventually Brody will catch up, but until then, I'm just enjoying my tiny little wonder known as a preemie.